Have you ever wondered why your life keeps looping like a movie scene that won't move forward? You meet the same kind of people, face the same challenges, and even when everything changes on the outside, deep down, it still feels like you're living the same story. It's frustrating, isn't it? Almost as if something unseen keeps pulling you back, again and again, into the same emotional script. But what if this repetition isn't random at all? What if it's a message from the deepest layer of reality, a hidden structure of consciousness that mirrors your inner world? This is exactly what one of the most mysterious scientists of the modern age, Jacobo Grinberg, dedicated his life to uncovering. A man who spent decades exploring the boundaries between mind and reality, a man who claimed that our lives are not governed by luck, but by the patterns of our own consciousness. And then, just as his discoveries were reaching global attention, he vanished without a trace. Before his disappearance in 1994, Jacobo Grinberg had been studying what he called the field of consciousness, a network that connects every human mind to the greater reality around it. He believed that our experiences, relationships, and even repeating life events are projections from this field. Meaning, if your life keeps repeating the same story, it's because your internal structure keeps generating the same pattern. Change the internal map, and reality itself changes. But how do you change something so deep, something invisible? That's what we're going to uncover in this video. Because Grinberg didn't just talk in theories. He designed experiments, ones that blurred the line between science and mysticism. In one of his most famous studies, he placed two people in separate rooms, wired their brains to EEG machines, and discovered something unbelievable. When one person was shown a flashing light, the other's brain, even across distance, reacted to it at the same moment, as if consciousness itself ignored physical separation. Grinberg called this the synchronization of minds. And he believed that this same invisible synchronization is what holds us trapped in cycles until we consciously break them. So why does your life keep repeating? According to Grinberg, every thought, every emotion, every belief you hold becomes a pattern in the lattice of reality. That pattern repeats itself, not to punish you, but to show you what you haven't yet transformed. You attract the same story until you finally shift the state of awareness that created it. And when you do, everything, your relationships, your opportunities, even the energy around you begins to rearrange. In this video, we'll dive into Jacobo Grinberg's key to breaking the cycle, his method to dissolve repetitive patterns and step into conscious creation. You'll learn how your perception literally constructs your world, why you're caught in the same emotional scripts, and the single shift in awareness that begins to rewrite your life. We'll also uncover the lesser-known parts of his research, the ones that challenge the scientific world and may explain why his work was buried after his disappearance. So stay with me till the end of this video, because by the time we're done, you'll see that your repeating life isn't a curse. It's a message from the field, inviting you to awaken. Welcome to Awaken Synchronicity, where we explore the hidden science of consciousness and the teachings of Jacobo Grinberg. If you're ready to understand the deeper forces shaping your reality, hit that subscribe button and let's begin the journey beyond the loop. Before we talk about breaking the cycle, we first need to understand what it really means to be caught in one. When people say, "My life feels like it's on repeat," they're not exaggerating. It's that strange feeling of déjà vu, not in moments but in experiences. Different faces, different cities, different jobs, yet somehow the same story keeps unfolding. The same arguments, the same disappointments, the same emotional endings, just wearing a new disguise. Maybe you've noticed it in your relationships. You keep meeting people who trigger the same pain. Or maybe at work, no matter where you go, you find yourself under the same kind of boss, facing the same kind of struggle. Even in personal growth, it can show up as a loop. You learn the lesson, you feel better, but months later, you're right back where you started. And when it happens over and over, it begins to feel like life is playing a joke on you. Like you're trapped in an invisible circle that you can't seem to escape. Jacobo Grinberg believed that this experience isn't just coincidence or bad luck. He said these repetitions are the echo of something deeper, a reflection of the internal reality that we carry within us. According to his theory of the lattice of consciousness, each of us lives inside a web of perception made of thoughts, emotions, and beliefs. This web shapes how we experience the world. So, when the same kinds of events keep appearing in our lives, it's not the outside world repeating, it's the inner pattern reappearing on the surface. Imagine your consciousness as a projector. Whatever film is loaded inside your beliefs, your fears, your expectations, that's what gets projected outward as your life story. You might think the screen is to blame, but it's only showing what's inside the reel. That's how powerful the inner structure is. It creates the illusion of reality and keeps looping until you consciously change the film. Grinberg explained that most people are unaware of this mechanism because it operates below conscious thought in the subconscious. It's the collection of all the impressions you've gathered since childhood, the way your parents treated you, the emotions you weren't allowed to feel, the rules you silently learned about love, success, or safety. All of that becomes part of your inner matrix, and from that matrix your life patterns are born. So when you find yourself in the same emotional situation again and again, it's not the universe working against you. It's your own subconscious creating familiar experiences, because that's what it knows. Grinberg's research pointed out something fascinating. The brain and consciousness form a kind of feedback system with the external world, meaning your perception doesn't just observe reality, it constructs it. So, every time you react in the same emotional way, you reinforce the same energetic blueprint. The mind sends a signal into the field, and the field mirrors it back as another version of the same event. That's why the loop feels so powerful, because it's being energetically sustained by your own awareness. But there's something subtle about these repetitions that Grinberg wanted us to notice. They're not just random obstacles, they're mirrors. Each loop is showing you a hidden part of yourself that you haven't yet recognized or healed. That's why ignoring the pattern never works. You can move to a new city, meet new people, start a new job, but if the inner structure stays the same, the movie resets. The outer world simply adjusts to match your inner frequency. For Grinberg, the key was awareness. He taught that when you begin to see the pattern clearly without blame or judgment, you create a small crack in the loop. That moment of recognition begins to dissolve the illusion that life is just happening to you, because in truth, it's happening through you, shaped by the consciousness you bring to it. Before we explore how to break the cycle, we need to step inside Jacobo Grinberg's extraordinary view of reality and consciousness, because this is where everything begins. Grinberg believed that consciousness doesn't just perceive reality, it creates it. According to him, the world we experience every day isn't something out there happening to us. It's something continuously generated from within us, through our perception, emotions, and awareness. In his view, the mind is not a passive observer. It's a powerful architect, shaping the very fabric of what we call existence. He described reality as an invisible, energetic network, a vast, interwoven field, connecting all things. He called it the lattice. This lattice, he said, is like the underlying matrix of energy and information from which every experience, every object, and every event emerges. Imagine it as a kind of living web, and your consciousness is the part of you that interacts with it. The brain, in Grinberg's theory, isn't the source of consciousness, but a translator of it. It filters and projects what you perceive, turning infinite potential into your personal version of the world. When you realize this, everything changes. It means that your reality isn't fixed. It's flexible, responsive, and shaped by the structure of your consciousness. So if your life keeps repeating itself, the same events, the same types of people, the same disappointments, it's not random chance. It's the lattice mirroring back your internal patterns. Think about it. You can change cities, partners, or jobs, but the same problems follow. That's because the source isn't outside. It's the inner structure you bring to every experience. Your beliefs, emotions, and assumptions form energetic patterns in your consciousness. These patterns interact with the lattice and give birth to external situations that match them. Until those inner patterns shift, the movie of your life keeps looping. This is why Grinberg often said that the true laboratory of transformation is within the mind. He believed that our repetitive experiences are not punishments, they're signals. They reveal the hidden programs we've been running unconsciously. Each repetition is like a mirror held up by the universe, reflecting what still needs to be seen, understood, or healed inside of us. Our beliefs, especially the ones buried deep below awareness, create what Grinberg called reality filters. These filters determine what possibilities we allow ourselves to see. For example, if you grew up believing love always leads to pain, your consciousness carries that expectation into every relationship. The lattice responds accordingly, arranging encounters that fit that frequency. The same story unfolds again and again until the pattern within changes. Grinberg's experiments supported this idea. He discovered that people's minds could synchronize across distance, suggesting that we're all connected through a shared field of consciousness. This means your inner state doesn't just affect you, it affects the environment and people around you. Everything you project into the field comes back in one form or another. So when you hold on to a certain vibration, fear, guilt, resentment, or unworthiness, that becomes the signal you send, and the field echoes it back as repeating experience. If you've ever felt like you keep attracting the same type of person, the same failures, or the same emotional pain, Grinberg would say, look within the structure, not the surface. The outer event is the reflection, not the cause. The cause lies in the internal arrangement of energy and perception, the template from which your reality unfolds. You can recognize you're stuck in a cycle when your life feels predictable. In the worst way, you enter a new chapter full of hope, yet the same emotional outcome repeats. You say, this time will be different, but somehow it is you feel the same emotions, face the same conflicts, and hear yourself thinking, why does this always happen to me? That moment of realization, when you notice the loop, is the first doorway to awareness. Because awareness itself is the first crack in the pattern. When you observe the repetition without blaming others or yourself, you begin to withdraw energy from it. You step out of reaction and into observation, and that's where transformation begins. For Grinberg, this was the key to freedom. Change the internal structure, not the external situation. He taught that trying to rearrange the outside world without altering your consciousness is like rearranging mirrors while keeping the same reflection. The real work happens when you shift the way you perceive yourself and reality. You stop identifying as the victim of the loop and begin to see yourself as the one creating it. This shift in perception changes everything. When you stop reacting emotionally in the same old ways, the lattice can no longer reflect the same experience. A new vibration enters, a new version of reality starts to form. Grinberg emphasized that this isn't about suppressing emotions or pretending everything is fine. It's about becoming aware of your inner world, your beliefs, fears, and reactions, and seeing how they shape what comes next. The more conscious you become of your internal state, the less power unconscious patterns have over you. When you understand this, life stops feeling like a series of accidents. You begin to see it as a dialogue between your inner and outer worlds. Every repeated situation becomes feedback, showing you exactly where your consciousness is still asleep. To Grinberg, being the observer, rather than the reactor, is the ultimate transformation. Because when you observe, you're no longer feeding the pattern. You stand outside the loop, aware of it, conscious of its mechanics. And in that awareness, the old energy begins to dissolve, the field rearranges, the pattern loses power. In that moment, the cycle starts to break, not because life suddenly becomes easier, but because you are no longer living unconsciously. You're creating reality on purpose. Now that we've uncovered how reality mirrors our inner structure, let's explore what Jacobo Grinberg taught about actually transforming that structure, the practical process of breaking the cycle from within. Grinberg believed that real change doesn't begin with the world outside you. It begins with your awareness. You can't heal what you can't see. You can't rewrite what you haven't read. So the first step in his approach is self-observation. And it sounds simple, but it's one of the most profound practices you can ever begin. Start by watching yourself in daily life. Observe your emotions, your thoughts, and your recurring reactions without judging them. Don't rush to fix them. Just notice them. When something upsets you, pause and ask, what is this really showing me about myself? Grinberg said that observation without judgment acts like light shining into darkness. It reveals the hidden mechanics of your consciousness. The moment you become aware of a repeating pattern, you interrupt its automatic nature. Awareness creates space, and space gives you choice. The second step is to question your beliefs. Every pattern you live out is powered by a belief, usually one so deep that you don't even realize it's there. When life shows you the same painful movie again, it's often because that belief is still running in the background. So ask yourself, what am I assuming here? Maybe you assume people can't be trusted. Maybe you believe success always comes with sacrifice. Maybe you think love inevitably turns into loss. Every assumption silently programs your reality. Grinberg encouraged people to dig beneath the surface and trace each emotion back to its core idea. When you find the belief behind the reaction, you have the power to change it. You don't have to fight it, simply question its truth. Ask, is this absolutely true, or where did I learn this? That inquiry begins to loosen the belief's grip. In that moment, your consciousness begins to reconfigure its relationship with the lattice of reality. The field starts to respond differently. The third step is to change your internal state, to shift how you feel and think, not just what you do. Most people try to change life by rearranging their outer circumstances. But Grinberg warned that if the inner frequency remains the same, the outer situation will just reassemble into the old pattern. So the key is to shift the energy first. This can be done through awareness practices, meditation, breath, or even through simple stillness. When you quiet the constant mental noise, you create room for a new signal to emerge. Feel into what it would be like to already be free from the pattern. Don't imagine it as something far away. Embody it now, even for a few seconds. That emotional shift changes the quality of the consciousness interacting with the lattice. You literally begin to tune yourself to a new version of reality. Once your inner state starts to shift, you move to the fourth step, embody the new pattern. This is where change becomes real. Don't wait for your external life to confirm that you've changed. Start acting as the new you before the evidence appears. If your old loop was built on fear, act from calm confidence. If your old pattern was shaped by lack, make choices from abundance. Each moment you respond differently, you send a new signal into the field. The lattice reorganizes itself to match this new vibration. Grinberg emphasized that embodiment anchors the transformation. It's not enough to understand consciousness intellectually. You have to live the new frequency through your actions, words, and feelings. The more consistently you embody it, the faster the external reflection shifts. Life begins to mirror the new pattern because consciousness has rewritten its template. This is why changing the internal works better than changing the external. External changes, new relationships, new jobs, new environments, can provide a temporary sense of relief, but they often end up recreating the same emotional results. You might move across the world, but if the same fears, resentments, or insecurities travel with you, they'll rebuild the old pattern wherever you go. The internal shift, on the other hand, changes the very frequency that generates experience. When you change your consciousness, the external world must reorganize to match it. The lattice of reality, as Grinberg described it, is like a mirror, perfectly responsive, perfectly neutral. It doesn't reward or punish, it simply reflects. When the reflection changes, it's because the consciousness standing before the mirror has changed. Yet, even knowing this, transformation is rarely easy. There are common obstacles that every person faces on this path. The first is fear of change. The old loop, as painful as it may be, is familiar. The mind clings to the known because it feels safer than the unknown. Breaking a cycle means stepping into uncertainty, into a space where the old identity no longer fits. Grinberg suggested meeting this fear with presence rather than resistance. When fear arises, don't push it away. Observe it, breathe through it, and recognize that fear is simply the mind's way of protecting what feels comfortable. Another obstacle is doubt, that voice that says, "I've tried everything and nothing works." Doubt often appears right before transformation because the old structure is beginning to dissolve. Grinberg taught that persistence is essential here. Consciousness reshapes itself through repetition and focus. You have to hold the new vibration long enough for it to become your new default. The field doesn't respond instantly because it's integrating a new pattern, but with patience and self-compassion, the change solidifies. He also warned against the trap of impatience, the urge to check whether the outer world has changed yet. That impulse comes from the old habit of seeking validation outside yourself. The real shift happens when you trust that the inner work is already transforming reality, even if the external proof hasn't yet appeared. Grinberg compared it to planting a seed. You don't dig it up every day to see if it's growing. You nurture it with faith and attention until it breaks the surface. So how do you overcome these obstacles? With gentle persistence. When you slip back into the old pattern, notice it, forgive yourself, and return to awareness. Every time you choose consciousness over reaction, you strengthen the new structure. Each small act of awareness sends ripples through the lattice, weakening the old blueprint and reinforcing the new. And then something remarkable begins to happen. The real-life impact of breaking the cycle. You start to feel lighter, as if the energy that once held you hostage is loosening its grip. The situations that used to trigger you lose their power. The same kind of person who once frustrated you suddenly doesn't evoke the same reaction. The same problem that felt impossible now seems neutral, even insignificant. As the inner pattern dissolves, life reorganizes around your new frequency. New people appear, opportunities open, and creative ideas flow. The universe seems to respond to your clarity with synchronicity. You begin to attract experiences that align with the new consciousness you've cultivated. Instead of repeating the past, you start creating the future. Freedom takes on a new meaning. It's not about escaping circumstances, it's about no longer being defined by them. You feel more alive, more grounded, more intentional. Your energy is no longer wasted resisting life, it's now directed toward creating it consciously. Grinberg's students often reported that as they practiced these steps, their perception of the world subtly changed. Colors seemed more vivid, time felt slower, and interactions became more meaningful. That's because awareness itself expands the field of perception. You begin to sense the interconnectedness that Grinberg called the lattice, a living intelligence responding moment by moment to your inner state. And perhaps the most beautiful outcome of this process is the quiet confidence it brings. You no longer feel like a victim of circumstance. You realize that life isn't something happening to you, it's something happening through you. Each thought, emotion, and action becomes part of a conscious dialogue with the universe. This is the moment when repetition transforms into creation. Instead of circling around the same story, you begin to write a new one, not because the world suddenly changed, but because you did. So, if your life keeps repeating, if you keep finding yourself in the same situations, facing the same struggles, or attracting the same kind of people, remember this: it's not fate, it's not bad luck, it's a signal, a mirror from the field of consciousness, reflecting back the state of your inner world. This was Jacobo Grinberg's most powerful revelation, that reality doesn't happen to you, it happens through you. Every thought, emotion, and belief forms a structure in the field, and that structure is what shapes your experiences. When that structure stays the same, your life stays the same. When it changes, the cycle breaks. Grinberg taught that nothing truly external can free you until you change what's internal. You can move to a new city, start a new job, or fall in love with someone new. But if your inner map is programmed with the same beliefs, you'll recreate the same pattern in a different setting. The names, faces, and details may change, but the feeling will be familiar. That quiet sense of déjà vu whispering, "I've been here before." The real transformation begins when you turn inward, when you pause long enough to notice the loop instead of reacting to it. When you ask yourself, what is this experience trying to teach me about my own consciousness? That's when the cycle starts to lose its power over you, because awareness, simple conscious awareness, is the first crack in the wall of repetition. Grinberg believed that once you begin observing your thoughts, emotions, and reactions without judgment, you step outside the pattern. You move from being the actor lost in the story to the observer who understands the script. And that shift from identification to awareness is the key that unlocks a new timeline. So start small. You don't have to transform everything overnight. Just begin by noticing one repeating pattern in your life. Maybe it's how you respond when someone criticizes you. Maybe it's the kind of partner you attract. Maybe it's the voice in your head that always says, "It's not possible for me." Whatever it is, don't fight it, observe it. Then, change one internal detail. Change how you interpret it. Change the emotion you attach to it. Change the story you tell yourself about it. Because every time you shift your internal reaction, the external world subtly rearranges to match it. That's the essence of Grinberg's work. The field of reality responds to consciousness, and when that shift begins, something extraordinary happens. The same old life starts to feel new. The weight of repetition lifts. You start to meet people who mirror your new vibration. Opportunities appear where there used to be walls. Life begins to respond differently. This isn't magic, it's awareness. It's consciousness in action. So, as you finish this video, take a moment to reflect. Look at your life not as a series of random events, but as a message, a reflection of what you've believed about yourself until now, and then decide, what do you want the next chapter to look like? Remember, your repeating patterns are not your punishment. They are your teachers. Each one appears to show you what still needs to be healed, released, or redefined. The loop is not against you, it's guiding you home to your own awareness. If Jacobo Grinberg's teachings have shown us anything, it's this. The key to breaking the cycle is not out there, it's within you. Shift the consciousness, and the field around you begins to shift too. So, start today. Even one small change in how you think or feel about yourself can begin to rewrite the pattern that's been running your life. If this message resonated with you, if it opened something within you or helped you see your life a little differently, then make sure to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to our channel, Awaken Synchronicity. Because this is just the beginning. Every week we explore the science of consciousness, the teachings of Jacobo Grinberg, and the path to inner transformation. Remember, you are not trapped in the loop, you are the awareness behind it. And once you awaken to that truth, the cycle finally ends.